speech. My next guest has been advocating the need for international binding agreements. He's also attending the new Energy Finance Summit taking place in London today. And he's James Cameron. Very good morning to you, James. Post-Copenhagen, where are we in terms of an international deal on the environment?
Well, we've had something of a failure in Copenhagen, but it's not all lost. We have an agreement called an accord, which is a political agreement. That agreement has to be turned into something that will make a bigger difference to investment flows, and that process is carrying on throughout the course of this year. President Calderon of Mexico is meeting with a smaller group of countries to help prepare for an agreement at the end of the year. Expectations are not high that a legally binding treaty could be agreed before the end of this year. You're hearing signals now that perhaps South Africa in 2 years' time might be the place for that multilateral agreement. But in the meantime, lots of efforts being expended at the domestic level, in regional agreements, and momentum is, I think, still being maintained just about for the kind of constraints that we absolutely need to deal with the climate change issue.
James, what is actually the biggest stumbling block? Is it China? Is it a particular issue?
I think it's not possible to divide this issue up into single interests, and we have a collective interest in dealing with a collective action problem. China is a significant part in both the creation of the problem from now on and its solutions. So we shouldn't single them out, but we absolutely need them to be right in the heart of the solutions to this problem. If you combine China and the United States of America, you have a very large percentage of global emissions, and we have to have some kind of agreement which involves them being roughly aligned in the commitments that they make over time, not right away, but over time, to deal with climate change. Now, I happen to think there's an enormous amount of synergy between those two countries when they get to grips with the technological response to climate change, and the effort expended by each government will be significant. I mean, I don't think that this is something that can be fixed principally through a multilateral agreement, but I can't see any way of dealing with this problem without international agreement. So we need those two powerful countries involved, but many other players as well, and perhaps a group of 20 or 25 countries who are the most significant sources of greenhouse gas emissions. They have to have policies that are roughly aligned, otherwise we won't create the market opportunities that we need to deploy capital at scale into these markets.
Now, we talked to you at the World Economic Forum in Davos, and you mentioned the role that bonds could play in fighting climate change. What kind of bonds are we talking about, and what sort of maturity levels, what sort of spreads are we talking about as well?
Well, I do think this is the right kind of instrument for deploying capital at scale, especially into infrastructure. Now, we have to make investments here that last decades. We have to deal with a transformation of our energy system, not a few small, attractive pilot projects. And the kind of capital that we need has to be secure, preferably with some kind of government guarantee attached to it. It has to compete in the commercial market, but at the moment that seems to be quite possible. It might be that you can use various tax breaks for savings. I think this is particularly attractive in those countries that already have a high savings culture, like Asia. But here in the West, we have a serious problem with poor levels of savings, and we need to find financial products which are attractive to the saver and to large institutional investors so that they can feel comfortable putting a very large amount of money aside for dividend-type yields to occur over perhaps 20 years, maybe more. Now, these kind of products we have some examples of today, but nothing at the right size that is comparable to the need to deploy capital, especially into clean energy infrastructure. So I see great hope here, but we still have work to do on the right kind of institutions to garner that capital and to deploy it effectively. We are talking here about creating a green investment bank, which is one possible device for that deployment.
James, very quickly as well, in 20 seconds, I was there at the summit yesterday, and we were talking about the stimulus measures there, saying that there's a drip at the moment, but we're expecting a veritable tsunami of cash to come in. Is that what you're looking at as well?
Well, there's no doubt that stimulus money is absolutely necessary to help literally put steel in the ground for some projects. But equally, I think there are many smaller businesses that will feed off that stimulus. It's very important that we don't just see this as large-scale infrastructure, and we have something that encourages an entrepreneurial response to climate change, where lots of companies can benefit from the flow of capital in this direction.
James, thank you so much for joining us. James Cameron there. He's from Climate Change Capital.